Yes, everybody, welcome back to United View. Welcome back to United View HQ for another episode of What the Devil. It's just me today, your host, Dylan. We had Firms was going to come on, and then he's put out last minute. So you are joined by just me today. And I've got a lot to say. I don't know how much you guys have been watching the Live at 5 show on DR Sports. Obviously, I do every weekday, 5 till 6 p.m. But I've been speaking a lot about United this week because it's taken me about 72 hours, I think, to unpack, or at least 72 hours to unpack what happened against Bournemouth. Because so much happened, right? So much happened. We had the game, what was a 4-4 draw, which was mental. We saw us scoring goals, conceding goals, leads, draws here and there, lovely goals, and it was terrible defending. But then also you had the whole Kobbie Mainoo thing after the Bournemouth game with his brother Jordan, which I was equally just like, I was so in a daze after the 4-4 draw that I felt so deflated. And then that happened, and I didn't even know what to think or how to think about it. You let me know what you thought about that as well. And then after that, the next morning, the Bruno Fernandes interview stuff came out. So I was sat there at about midday trying to make lunch on the Tuesday, like about to come into the studio to do DR Sports stuff, and I was just going, what's happening? Like it was so. It's taking me so long to unpack. Johnny Isles, how are you doing today? I'm doing all right. I'm doing better. I've got an energy drink next to me because I had a long night last night. But we're back. We're here. We're here to talk about United. And I feel a lot better now than I did, let's say, 48 hours ago, for example, about this Bournemouth game. And I want to start by touching on, before we get into anything else that's happening, the Kobbie Mainoo thing and everything, I want to talk about just what happened in the game. Because for those of you who may have been watching my stuff for the last couple of months, you'll know that I've been complaining. And I said this after the Grimsby loss. I remember saying after the Grimsby loss in August, if he doesn't rock up to that Burnley game with a back four, I don't want to see any more of him. Obviously, he didn't. But then the Burnley game, we won 3-2 and Bumo was smashing it. I think, we had like a crazy winner at the end or whatever it was. But it was fantastic. But what, happened in the Bournemouth game is therefore stuff that I've been thinking about for a long time and campaigning for. It wasn't quite four at the back because I liked how we set up that game. Now Amram can say as much as he likes, nothing major changes. There wasn't any massive differences, but he knows and we know that there was. This is even before the trio went off to AFCON, by the way. I know Maswari had already gone, I guess, but the other two hadn't even gone yet, and that was, for me, that was the best first half I've seen us play under Amorim. Full stop. The only other one I can think of, which was also fantastic, was our first half against Lyon in the that game that ended up being like the crazy game when Ugai was starting, we were on fire and everything. I think we're 2-0 up by half time. That was an amazing first half, but that one against Bournemouth, I know we conceded, but aside from that, aside from the couple of errors that seem to be in our game all the time anyway, that probably was I would say the best first half we've had under Ruben Amorim. And then the second half was the worst 15 minutes I've seen over a second half under Amorim. The switch was crazy. The switch was mental. But to stick on the first half, just for now, we can get into the second half as we go on. But what I found so interesting was the roles that each of the four defenders plus Ahmad were given in that team. So if we start let's start with Ahmad, right? So Ahmad, it was out of possession. It was still a back 3/back 5, wasn't it? It was when Bournemouth were on the attack, Ahmad was wide and he was deep. He was fairly deep because that's, out of possession when they're on the attack. That's what Amorim's asking for. And then on the attack, Ahmad, I don't know if will there be much difference in the statistics on his average position, but it felt like he was coming in a lot more narrow at points. And he was almost the one making that third midfielder alongside Bruno and Casemiro in that first half. And it was so good for our build-up. Then you've got Lenny Yoro, who played as a right centre-back, but also as a right-back. And I like Yoro so much, but personally, I prefer him more at the moment on the left. He said in interviews before with Rio Ferdinand, he said he actually feels more comfortable on the left-hand side of the back three. I don't know for whatever reason it is, but he says he does. And I think he's better there. He will become good. I have so much faith that Lenny Yoro will become an amazing centre-back, the centre-back that we all think he could become. But I think he's better on the left for now. And that role that he had, the centre-back / right-back role, I honestly couldn't think of a better player for that role to be than Maswari. Like, if you think about it, he grew up a right back, right? That's where he played at Ajax, at Bayern Munich, and under Erik ten Hag when we had a back four. He was a right back. And he turned into a right centre back because he's much better as a right centre back than a right wing back. We all know this. Mazraoui is good with the ball at his feet, but right centre back, he's so much better. And that could be such a damn good role for him if we continue playing this way. Because then you got Yoro, and then right centre back was Aiden Heaven, wasn't it? And bless the guy, he on the ball, he's good. He's good on the ball, Aiden Heaven is. I'll give him that big time. But I think off the ball, he's still got a lot to learn. Like, so things like, for example, when Bournemouth scored their first goal, it was Semenyo. We can talk about Luke Shaw in a second because that was really poor from Luke Shaw in that. But then he doesn't come over. He's too busy tracking the man behind him. And he just leaves a corridor of space open for Semenyo to run through and score. That's the kind of thing that, Aiden Heaven won't do that again because he'll know about it. He'll learn about it. He'll sit down with the coaches, the analysis guys or whoever. And he will get much better and he will play better. But when De Ligt returns, again, I can see that right centre-back role that Yoro was playing, that Aiden Heaven was playing, De Ligt will be able to do so much better in that role. And then we've got the left centre-back, which was Luke Shaw, who's been great in a back three. And at points, remember, under Erik ten Hag, he played as a centre-back in a back three and also a back four, so a left centre-back in both of them. But Lisandro Martinez, I think, would be so good in that position where Shaw is. Because I know we had then Dalot at left back, and I'd like Shaw at left back. The one issue I'd have about Shaw and Martinez is the left back and left centre back. There's not a lot of height there. Luke Shaw is allegedly 6 foot, but I'm not even 6 foot. I'm 5'11". I don't know if Luke Shaw's taller than me. He might be. I don't know. Obviously, I've never met the guy in person. I've watched him play a couple of times, but never met him in person. But he just doesn't feel like someone who's 6 foot. But I just think that the setup of that back 5/back 4 is actually very, very good because it gets the best. It provides the. I know we conceded 4, but it provides the best foundation for that midfield and attack to then push forwards. Like Bruno Fernandes was playing much higher. Again, goal and assist. I know it's from set pieces, but game's a game. Bruno Fernandes was much higher. Casemiro was good until he got his yellow card. So I feel like in the first half, the way we set up produced our best first half performance of the season. Even though you had Brian Mbeumo, it was probably his worst game. I think that was Brian Mbeumo's worst game he's had for us since he joined the club. That's not to knock him. I just feel like the chances that he missed, because he missed 2 or 3 really, really good chances against Bournemouth, he could have done a lot better. Well, he could have scored at least 2 or 3 of them, maybe even up to 2 or 3 of them. But I just feel like the system we played overall, we can get into the second half now. If we had the players that I've mentioned playing at the back rather than the players who did, I know that's due to injury, AFCON, etc., we wouldn't concede 4 goals in that game. Because the spaces were too wide. I think part of that to do was with Aiden Heaven not being able to manage his space the best way he can. De Ligt would. Not to knock Aiden Heaven and think that he can't do that in the future, but for me, De Ligt comes back and we look so much more solid in the back, even if we keep everything else there the same. So you then get into midfield, and really early on in the second half, Kobbie Mainoo comes on. So that was, it was before the 60th minute, wasn't it, as well, Kobbie Mainoo? We came on really, really early in the second half, and the instant Kobbie Mainoo came on, bang, changes. We look so much better. Because I know it coincides with Bournemouth having gone 3-2 up. Obviously, it was 2-2 after 48 seconds, whatever it was, crazy. And then Tavernier gets taken down by Casemiro on the edge of the area. Casemiro gets his yellow, and Tavernier scores a free kick, which Lamond should have done a lot better with. Like, he jumps at the wrong time. He can't quite see the ball right, which may be down to his wall, the players in front of him. But in that case, you've got to, in my opinion, I feel like he should have maybe organised the wall better to make sure he can actually see what's going on. That I put down to Le Mans. None of the other goals I put really down to him. I don't think he could have saved those, because they were more, those shots should have never happened anyway. So I don't know how much I can blame Le Mans for what was going on there. But what then happened when Mainoo came on was we took control of the game immediately. I was really surprised by Mainoo about how good and how fluid and how light he looked, both on and off the ball. He looked like very easy, like he was gliding on the grass. I know that's what he does anyway. He just looks amazing in that sense, about how he can just glide across grass and glide into space and ghost into places. That is something that's just fantastic, and a trait of his. But I think he was really, really good with the ball at his feet. Like, if we want to dominate the ball more, we need someone like Kobbie Mainoo in this team, because Kobbie Mainoo will allow us to use the ball better. Because so often so far this season, our win rate, when we've got less than 50% possession versus more than 50% possession, there's a stark difference in it. And I do feel like that's because when we do have less than 50% possession, we've got people who are slightly more bulldozers like Casemiro, who can be on the pitch, bulldoze his way through, score a header, and then like kind of quick actions here and there. But when you have more of the ball, you've got more time to think. And when Mainoo's got more time to think, he plays much better football. So I think if we are looking to do more possession, which is exactly what happened against Bournemouth, once Mainoo came on, we had more possession and we looked better and we then scored 2 goals for it. Admittedly, Mainoo's defending for the 4th goal. Yes, I know, he should have been better. But on the balance of everything, I thought he was fantastic. I know a couple of you guys said in the comments, Johnny Hill, to be honest, even with De Ligt in the team, we still conceded a lot of goals. I think Amram's system 3-4-3 and the way he sets it up leaves way too many gaps between each section of the team. I agree. I do agree with that. But this is what I'm saying is that if we were then to play the back 4.5-ish thing we did against Bournemouth, which was a stark difference, those gaps, I think, were down to individual errors and not being able to know where to be in the right spaces rather than there simply being too much space. So De Ligt over Heaven, in that system, if Amram was to keep going with it, which I really, really hope he does over the next few games, we've got Villa away, Newcastle at home, Wolves at home, and then Leeds away, and then Man City. Those 5 games for the City game, like there's 3 or 4 wins in that. There's at least 3 wins and a draw and then maybe a loss in those. Easier 4 wins if we play well. Like at least 4 wins if we play well there. And I think if De Ligt can get back into that exact Aiden Heaven role, because there's 4 at the back rather than 3 centre backs, there's less space for De Ligt to cover, and I think he gets a lot better. Ridden it says, attacking wise, super impressive. 25 shots and 3.4 XG against Bournemouth. Overall, we've scored 30 Premier League goals as a team already, and we've also improved on set pieces. Yeah. I am not worried about our attack at all. I think our attack's fantastic. We're on course to score 70 Premier League goals this season. That's happened once since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. I believe that was Eric Ten Hag's first season. We scored 70 Premier League goals. It was the 2021 season. Oh no, that's Solskjaer. Only once have we scored more than 70 goals. I'm not worried about our attack. Even like we're doing this, by the way, these goals things, as you mentioned, with Šeško having scored 2, Cunha having scored 2. Like, these players will get more goals. Šeško will get more goals. He can hit double figures by the end of this season. His injury and kind of inconsistently, I was hoping for 12 to 15 goals. Might not be able to get there. He'd need to go on a decent scoring run in the second half of the season and stay fit to do that. But I don't see any reason why Šeško can't, start upping his goals and start getting some goals once he's back fit. Same with Cunha. Same with Matheus Cunha. So I'm not worried about our goals at all. I think if we can hit 70 to 80 goals, amazing. It was 70 to 80 Premier League goals. We've been starving for goals in that thing. But we need to be able to manage games more when under pressure, especially when teams attack us, and the defending just isn't good enough as a team. I'm not worried about our attack. I'm worried about our defence. But the setup, this is the point I'm trying to make, is the setup that we had against Bournemouth is a better defensive setup, but that was kind of masked by the individual errors made by those actually on the pitch. Change those, have our best players, have Mazwari on that right/centre-back role, have De Ligt on the field, maybe Martinez's aggressiveness, for example, and his ability to cover ground quickly, and then Luke Shaw or Dalot around kind of in that left space. We do much better. Because Luke Shaw, by the way, for that Semenyo goal, he gets bodied way too easy. For a guy that's meant to be damn strong, he gets bodied way too easily for that Semenyo goal. So I really, I might just might be me just being copium, like having some copium. But better players come back after AFCON. I know AFCON's not for a bit, but also if De Ligt can come back, or even Maguire can come back from injury soon, those guys, their spatial awareness is generally quite good. So this is why I think that if this new Amarim setup, it's gung-ho, like 3 of our next 4 games are at home. So 2 of our next 4 games are at home, and then one of the away games is Villa, which is obviously tricky. That's the one this Sunday. We'll get onto that later. And then the other one is Leeds, who we can also beat. So I feel like the Newcastle game at home, Wolves games at home, League games away. Like, these are games where, as long as we can shut up shop, I'm not worried about being able to score goals. I know we didn't score goals against Everton and West Ham. They were bad. But overall, I'm not worried about that. So, there are a couple more comments here. Thank you guys for getting involved. And obviously, if you've got anything to say, get in the live comment section. Just let me know. But Johnny says, it'll be interesting to see what he does against Villa, because some say we need an actual DM in that match. But on the other hand, I'd say Villa will probably sit back most of the game. Yeah, Emery will... Well, they'll play like they played against Arsenal, which was they didn't have let's say the majority of the ball, the majority of the dominance, but they were the better team that game. But I also think that we can introduce stuff that Arsenal didn't quite have that game. Arsenal had an off day that game, I admit. Yeah, I will touch on the Villa game a bit more later. Ian White, I don't know what that was you just said, but his name is pronounced Tavernier, not what you said. Tavernier, yeah, sorry. I've had his older brother James at my club for almost 10 years now. Really? Oh, that's actually really interesting. Yeah, no, names are never my forte. I will happily admit I'm bad at reading names. It's always been a thing for me, but it's Tavernier, not Tavernier. That's my bad. I do hope he does the back four regularly because it would allow a lot more bench options to also fit the team. Yeah, I want to see Manu starting. I want to see Manu playing like against Leeds or against Wolves or against. I want to see Lisandro Martinez back in the 11. But actually, that's a good question. Where do you guys see Lisandro? If we were to continue with this back four, how do you see Leacher playing? Because he can't play at the left wing back position because Leacher's not a left wing back. He's clocking mad speeds in training. By the way, I've heard a few people saying that like his speeds are like the highest they've been. So apparently he's getting quicker than he was before, which is kind of crazy. But I don't know. Yeah, Lisandro Martinez. In another world, him at left centre back and then Shaw at left back is fantastic. But as I said before, there is a bit of a height issue there. Like just being real, like if you swing back post crosses from an opposition's left flank over to the back post, there's a height problem there, 100%. Louis says, the problem with signing a midfield in January versus Semenyo is our first choice midfield targets are not going to be available, and I'd rather not have another Amrabat stopgap midfield signing. Yeah, you know what? Let's go on to Semenyo a bit. I'll get back to some of your other comments in a second, but so the news with Semenyo. Obviously, we played Bournemouth on Monday evening, and I don't think anyone's ever going to forget that. But Fabrizio Romano then came out on yesterday, so on Wednesday, and to summarise, he basically said Semenyo's future is really heating up with several top Premier League clubs monitoring his availability. On his YouTube channel, Romano noted that Tottenham are currently pushing the hardest, showing genuine and aggressive interest, although any potential move will ultimately depend on the player's decision. United and Manchester City both made contact with Bournemouth within the last 48 hours, so that's basically just after the Bournemouth game, or basically during the Bournemouth. It might have been during the Bournemouth game. Could have been ahead of kickoff or after, in the director's box or something. Maybe Bournemouth director was there. In the last 48 hours to understand Semenyo's situation and the conditions of his £65 million release clause. Now remember, the release clause in January is 60 million quid and then 5 million in add-ons. But as we know with Cunha's, there are further details on that. So Cunha's release clause specifically said 3 payments of 20.8 million then next summer and the summer after that. So Semenyo's might be similar. It might be a release clause of 60 million, which is, very reasonable for a player of his talent. But that could be 40 million pounds up front, 20 million next summer, and then the 5 in add-ons. So even if United were to match the release clause value, they may not actually match the release clause itself, the conditions of the release clause. Obviously, they want to find that out. Amid the club's 4-4 draw with Bournemouth, United's interest is real, but Romano stated that their recent spending on Cunha and Mbeumo could influence how far they're willing to go financially. City are also in regular contact as they assess their options. Liverpool remain in the background, having first inquired in November, but their next steps are linked to what happens with Mo Salah and their broader January priorities, because obviously they need a centre-back as well. With multiple clubs in the race, the decisive factor is expected to be Semenyo himself, with the player weighing up his future rather than being driven purely by money or immediate guarantees of playing time. Semenyo is so damn good. I love his style of winger. He's a bit of a mixed breed between what Cunha and Mbeumo are, isn't he? He's efficient, Semenyo. He's very, very efficient with the ball at his feet. Fantastic striking. But he's got a little more flair about him to Mbeumo. Mbeumo's a bit like... there's a reason Mbeumo has the Mo Salah comparisons. He's not flair massively or anything, but he's efficient. He's good in front of goal. Normally, obviously not against Bournemouth. Normally, he's great in front of goal and he can smack it. But the thing with Semenyo, which is so interesting, which we don't have, he's ambipedal, which is a word that I get massively slaughtered for on DR Sports, by the way, because it means good with both feet. I got ambidextrous, equal with both hands. Ambipedal means good with both feet. But, also known as two-footed. But I do think that Semenyo would be another unique profile for us. But is there a kind of problem of overstacking our team? We're seeing what's happening with Liverpool at the moment. They've stacked their attack and midfield. and it's causing problems. That's also, I know there's other things going around with that, with the kind of Isak drama happening so late and Wirtz not playing as well as people would have owed him. But yeah, I do feel like because wing back's the obvious position, right? Left wing back. But are we really going to spend 65 million quid on a Premier League level, like Champions League level winger and whack him at left wing back? I know we've done that with Ahmad. But I'm kind of in two minds about it, because I love the concept of it. But when you look at Liverpool, they loved the concept of Isak and Ekitike as their options, with Wirtz in behind and then Salah and Szoboszlai there with Gakpo on the left wing, etc. Like, they loved the theory and it did not work. And we've done this whole thing of just like stacking big name talents and it doesn't always work. So as much as I love Semenyo, part of me is a little bit apprehensive about how it's all going to work out. And let me know how you guys feel about where Semenyo, where could he fit in? Because reading it says the Semenyo links are interesting. When I was watching him, he doesn't have a fixed position. He plays on the left and the right side. Well, that's because he's Bournemouth's best player. Like, Bruno plays on the left and right and the middle for us. I think that's because kind of he's just Bournemouth's best player, so they need him everywhere. I think he could play left mid or right mid in a 4-4-2 or as a very attacking wing back. I also think Semenyo could play up front in a 4-4-2, but I like how Cunha / and Boomer play together up front, and he's a versatile footballer. Yeah, for sure. If we get another left wing back, then we might as well sell Amas and Leon, says Grace. Why? Amas has been smashing it in the Championship, and we already don't have great options at left wing back. Like, we got Dorgu, who's not been amazing. Dallow's been playing there. Amas is in the Championship. Leon's not ready for European football yet, hence why he might be going on loan to Nice in January. You may as well have it. Liverpool is a stacked attack, not midfield. None of their midfielders are DMs. But that's what I mean. Is that Liverpool have a load of attacking midfielders, or midfielders who are good at attacking, and then they've just got Gravenberch as the only realistic DM. Szoboszlai's been filling in well also at DM and at right back, etc. But he's just a bit of a Swiss Army knife player. But what I was trying to say with Liverpool is they had such a good level of attack, and then it's almost too stacked to a certain extent with high level players, because you can have a stacked attack with very clear first and second choices. But let's say Semenyo comes in, we've then got Mount, Semenyo, Šeško, let's say Bruno if we were to get Semenyo in January, Ahmad, and Xerxes at the moment, I guess, and then Mainu, who can all play in the three attacking positions, and that's 7 players, plus Chido, plus Lacey, plus Mantanto. There's a lot of players there. But I do think Semenyo, if we can convince him to be part of the squad and, part of the team and part of the, you're going to play when you're going to play, you're going to get minutes, you're going to get your chance, but you got to come to United and you got to fight for it. That would be awesome. That would be amazing. Because imagine then, in the last 6 months, we've then signed Cunha, Šeško and Bumo and Semenyo. That level of talent, and then the oldest one of them is 26. Bumo and Cunha are 26. That would mean Semenyo's 25 right now, and Šeško's 22. That's a crazy level of talent, a crazy level of future ability, current ability, availability, and breadth of type of player. That's amazing. That would be unreal if we had all of them. But it's just the case of, because also then Ahmad as well. But it's just the case of fitting them all in. Because because it's the other thing, is if Amram is changing the system, like Riddenit was saying, if we're going 4 at the back, if we're playing a 4-2-4, or if we're playing a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, there's no left wing back position left. Ahmad kind of plays a bit of a hybrid. He basically plays alongside the entire front, right hand side. And then we can't really do that on the left as well without dropping the left back. And Semenyo's not suddenly going at left back, or we're not suddenly dropping Cunha every week. It's a bit. I think it's got to pan out. We got to see how Ruben Amorim handles this new back 4 formation, this new, the 4.5 defenders basically that we had against Bournemouth, before we can then think about where Semenyo would fit in. Amorim might know, because Amorim reportedly met him for dinner last summer. Amorim's obsessed with the player and he thinks he's amazing. Blah blah blah. We bid 50 million quid for him and didn't get him. But if we want Semenyo, it's got to be in January, because otherwise he's going to Liverpool. By the way, I'm so convinced that, I know the report I just read out saying that Liverpool remain in the background, waiting to see what happens with Salah. I think, which is why Spurs are trying to jump the gun and get there first. But I do think if he goes anywhere, it's going to be Liverpool. He's an Arsenal fan, but Arsenal don't want him. Arsenal should sign him. I said this on DR Sports yesterday. With me and Ben were talking about it. He would be an amazing signing for Arsenal, because that means they can get rid of one of Trossard or Martinelli namely Trossard, who's 31, I want to say now. But I do think to a certain extent, there's got to be, like for Arsenal, they've got to get rid of the 31-year-old, bring the 24-year-old he's already better than Trossard is. It'd be an amazing signing for them, but obviously Arsenal aren't going for it. And if we were to try and sign Semenyo, by the way, I'm not complaining at all. It would be awesome. I think he's amazing. As I said, he's a profile we don't have. We need all these different profiles. We've got Mbeumo, who's the kind of the output man, a bit like Bruno Fernandes, like the output guys. We've got Šeško, who can hopefully turn into the kind of the spear, like the spear point, the top of all of it. And then we've got Cunha, who's like the maverick player. Everyone needs a maverick, right? Everyone needs someone who will do something magic. Like I think we lost to Everton partly because we were missing Cunha. If we had Cunha in that 1-0 loss to Everton, we win that game 2 or 3-1 probably, because he would be able to unlock a defence that we just weren't being able to break down. And then Semenyo would be the more, as you guys have been saying, the more versatile player, the two-footed player. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play through the middle, he can play off someone, he can play really out wide, he can play in pockets. Like he's an amazing player. I'm just interested to see how we would even line up with that. Right, back to your comments. Because obviously, yeah, please do get involved, as I was saying, because, it's just me today, so effectively you guys are my co-hosts. If we went 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, can Cunha play left wing? Yeah, I think he can. Not as good. Like, Cunha's not as good, and he's not the world's fastest player. But what I like really about Cunha, because there's been some talk about his speed. It's like, off the ball, his speed isn't amazing. But what's so interesting about Cunha is on the ball, his speed doesn't really change. So he's not massively quick off the ball, like kind of like in the way Mbeumo is, for example. Like Mbeumo is rapid. Šeško, once he's fit again, rapid. He doesn't look rapid, but Šeško is really, really quick. Cunha's not massively quick, but with the ball at his feet, his speed doesn't really change. Which I think that's so interesting, because very, very few players in the world can do that. Messi did that quite. I'm not saying Cunha's better than Messi or as good as Messi or anything, but I think what's so interesting with Cunha is that his speed doesn't change, which is just like, I think, a really, really underrated trait of Cunha's that we need to use more. But I think in terms of can he play left wing, yeah, I reckon he can do it. He'll be fine. If we become more ball dominant and we're going back to a back four and we're playing with some full-backs or wing-backs or people who can overlap. Let's say Harry Amas comes back and he's doing much better. Harry Amas is like a mini Luke Shaw, and Luke Shaw loved overlapping. If Harry Amas can do something like that as well, Harry Amas's delivery is fantastic. Or if we go to a new left back or whatever, or maybe Dorgu fixes up, then yeah, but Cunha would just play he'd go inside a bit more. But that's fine, that works. Because then we have width on the other side of the pitch. As long as we have someone keeping the width, Cunha can play left wing and come inside. He can play off the striker. But you play a 4-4-2 with Cunha and Šeško, or Cunha and Mbeumo up top, or Šeško and Mbeumo up top. Like, I really don't think that'd be too much of a problem. It took me the 4-3-3 talk in AFCON for me to realise that without Amad and Mbeumo, we have no genuine wingers at the club. Yeah, that is true. Amad and Mbeumo are both out-and-out wingers. And they're the only ones we have. We have Lacey. Lacey's an out-and-out winger as well. But he's... Amram seems to be able to not want to play him. And then Matthew says, and if we are somehow in the Champions League, we need 2 more attackers. We may spend more in the summer. Oh, yeah, no, I have no doubt we're signing another attacker this summer. Or January, if it ends up being Semenyo. We need another attacker, 100%. But I think I don't know if what we need is Semenyo. Well, obviously, I'd love Semenyo, but it's more like, do we try and go and sign a value for money attacker instead? Because I think some people are forgetting Mason Mount in this conversation. I know you guys, some of you know, I'm a big champion of Mason Mount, not just because I get compared to him a lot looks wise. Maybe not at the moment because my hair is longer, my beard is a bit longer, but I used to get that a lot, especially when I first started coming on United View and DR Sports. But I think Mason Mount's a damn good player. He's a really, really good player, and I feel like some people aren't fully appreciating him in this conversation about the attacking players, because he can also play as a number 8, but he's so good on that left hand side, Mason Mount. He really, really is that good. Johnny Hill says, if you could pick a player in football that looks like a United player, who would it be? Like I said, I think Atiki looks like an Arsenal player, Semenyo is a Liverpool player. Currently or in history? Because in history, the most United player who's never played for Man United is and will always be Gareth Bale. I'm so 100% sold on that that Gareth Bale is the most United player who's never played for us. Currently, Harry Kane. I'd go for, I know I've just named 2 Spurs players, but I agree with you about like players who are coded for certain clubs. I agree with you. You say Ekitike is Arsenal coded. I think it's Isak. I think Isak is such an Arsenal player. I can't believe he didn't go. Obviously, he wanted to go to Liverpool, but I think that Isak is such an Arsenal player. I think Semenyo, yeah, you're right, very Liverpool player. Emi Martinez as a United coded player. Yeah, I can hear that. Morgan Rogers is a good shout. Yeah, Morgan Rogers is a good shout. I like him, Oh, another player I think who's quite United coded, Cole Palmer. I don't know how you guys think about that, but I think he's a very Man United player. I joke about this in the office sometimes with Richard, who's one of the guys who does DR Sports Socials. He's a Chelsea fan, and I keep Palmer United coded. And Pickford, no, I don't think Pickford's good level mid-table Premier League club. Pickford is exactly where he's meant to be. England number 1, Everton hero. That's exactly what Jordan Pickford is. He's not. I don't think he's anything more than that. He was never really a big 6 keeper. I don't think. Like, he's at his best at like an Everton level club. All due respect to Pickford and Everton. But I keep joking that when we sell Bruno, Cole Palmer will be our replacement for him. I don't think that'll actually happen, but I keep joking about it because I love Cole Palmer. I think he's such an amazing footballer. I know he's not at the world's best season, but I think he's such a fantastic footballer. And I think, he is. I'd say Harry Kane and Cole Palmer are the most Manchester United players who don't or haven't played for Manchester United at the moment. Let me know what you guys think as well, though. I think because there's a solid couple of them. But before we end up wrapping up the stream, I want to speak about this Villa game. Because I tweeted the other day, or maybe it was 5-6 days ago, Tony Kroos should replace Paul Scholes. Yeah, I don't know how. Louis van Gaal, by the way, that fumble is crazy from Louis van Gaal. Like, stopping that. I think it was Van Gaal, wasn't it? Stopping the Tony Kroos deal. That was Kroos. Yeah, that was an absolutely mental thing to do. Imagine we had Tony Kroos for the first 5 years after Sir Alex Ferguson retired. We'd have been so much better because we didn't have a midfielder for ages. You say replacement for Scholes, even a replacement for someone like Carrick, man. We didn't have, because Scholes is an elite level midfielder. We didn't even. I know Tony Kroos is also amazing. He won 5 Champions Leagues, World Cup, everything. But our midfield was dire, so dire. I can't believe we fumbled that one. Well, I can't believe that Van Gaal did it. Wish you prefer Champions League football, but we're not competitive in Europa League. Build up to competitive in 2028. Oh, good question, Matthew. So he's basically just asking me, would I prefer getting in the Champions League this season? Was it Moyes that stopped it? But either way, fumbling that bag, mental. Do you prefer Champions? Yeah. Do I prefer Champions League football but not competitive? Do you mean competitive as in competing in the Champions League? Because ultimately, I had this. Ben asked me this yesterday on Live at 5. But any of you guys, if you don't watch Live at 5 on DR Sports, 5 till 6 p.m. every weekday, I'm hosting Live at 5 to go through, not just United news, but football news around the world, around the Premier League. We're going to be mainly talking about the Maresca and Pep Guardiola stuff at 5 p.m. So if you want to hop along there, and if you are watching in the comment section at the time, do let me know. I'll give you a shout out. But I would still prefer to try and qualify for the Champions League this season than be competitive in the Europa League. A, because Thursday night football makes me want to put my head through a wall. But B, because financially. It just is. I also want to see us playing, even if we're not as good as them, I want to see us playing the biggest clubs. It's just because for me, that's what football's about. For me, I want to see us lining up and playing, Juventus or Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. Because I'm seeing Chelsea aren't competing for the Champions League title. Realistically, I'd say they're not one of the top 3 favourites, are they? But they had Barcelona at Stamford Bridge and just smacked them, and it was an amazing day for Chelsea. It's just, I want to see us playing the best, because also, I think qualifying for the Champions League accelerates this whole project. Imagine we'd beaten Spurs, right? In May, was it 21st of May, wherever it was, 26th of May. If we'd beaten Spurs in that competition, we'd be in the Champions League right now. We'd probably be 11th in the table or whatever. But we'd have had the extra 100 million. We'd have that deal. It might be Belieber. We might have Belieber now. We can think about whatever we can think about Belieber this season at Brighton, but I think if he had joined us in the summer, he'd be a better player, but he'd be rotating with Casemiro. We'd have Mbeumo would be playing this is the other thing as well, is we've got Cunha, we've got Mbeumo, we've got Šeško, we've got Bruno, we've got De Ligt. These are Champions League level players. they don't deserve to be playing Champions League football based on the second, obviously not Mbumo and Češko and Cunha, but the others. They don't deserve it because they didn't win that game against Spurs, so they don't deserve to be in the Champions League in that way. But like Mbumo and Cunha and stuff, they are Champions League level players. They quote unquote deserve to be in the Champions League. Like that's where they belong in the Champions League. So I'd want us to be in the Champions League, even if it was we get knocked out in the round of 16 or knocked out in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. I would rather that than go through Europa League again and having to rely on Europa League to get Champions League, because it was hell last year. It wasn't it? It was fun, smacking Lyon at the last, well, not smacking Lyon, beating Lyon in the last minute, smacking Athletic Bilbao, beating Real Sociedad with like Mason Mount's amazing goals in the second half at Old Trafford. But yeah, I saw another question. Gray says, why don't you see a left-footed attacker on the left and a right-footed attacker on the right nowadays? Everyone just plays inverted now. Well, because inverted's... I think the reason for that is it's a lot easier to cut in. No, it's a lot easier to cross with your weak foot than cut in on your weak foot, if that makes sense. So let's say you've got Ahmad, who's left-footed, playing on left wing. Ahmad loves cutting inside, but if he was cutting inside on his right all the time, then he wouldn't be able to like do something overly threatening if he was cutting in on with his right foot, because his right foot's not amazing. So basically that would then mean that his main option is always right, go down the byline, go down the byline, go down the byline, which is easier to then defend. If you've then got a left-footed player on the right-hand side, Ahmad can still go down the line he does and then chip across him with his right foot, because his right foot's good enough to just whack in across and find someone. But then if he also has the option to then go on his left foot, on his strong foot, and then he can shoot, or he can pass, or he can then play it forward to a midfielder or something, or he can then pass it back to Mbumo, I think that might be the main reason why, because it's the best way of, if you are kind of one-footed, it's the best way to even out your resources, if that makes sense. You asked another question, Grace, didn't you? Well, you said, I want to play Champions League football so we can beat those bottle jobs currently at the top of the table. Hashtag I hate Arsenal. Yeah, word. Then we definitely need at least 5 players in the summer plus 2 in January. Yeah, but yes, we need 5 players in the summer, and getting into Champions League gets us the funds for 5 good players. As someone mentioned earlier, I can't remember who it was, they mentioned about not wanting another Amrabat again. I don't want to see another Sabitzer coming in, Amrabat coming in, Weghorst coming in. I don't want that. Igalo, like, as much as it was kind of fun at the moment, like Sabitzer was quite fun, Weghorst was quite funny watching him play, and he made Rashford play well. Sabitzer, yeah, as I said, Sabitzer did score a couple good goals. Igalo was just hilarious, the fact that we had him. That was really bizarre, but quite funny. I don't want to see that happening. Like Ruben Amorim said in his press conferences, he's really said he only wants to buy players who are here for long term. He doesn't want to do 6-month loans. He doesn't want to do like kind of auxiliary emergency solutions, signing someone who's 33 just because they might have 1 year left in them and giving them a 4-year deal. Like, and ultimately, long term, it's the right thing to do, especially with your funding if it is limited. We're going to have, by the way, I don't know how much you guys are aware of this, but the new financial stuff coming into play, I can't remember if it's next season or the season after, gives us more money. So it's what it basically is clubs can spend 85% of their earnings from revenue plus transfer fees on transfer fees. So that was like any money that you earn through selling a player plus any money that you earn from, like match day tickets and shirt sales and sponsorships and stuff. 85% of that can be, like, the threshold is 85%. The way we've been spending at the moment in the last few years, I think I remember it was about, if like we had equated the money we're spending to the money we generated as a club, it was about 55%. So that's an extra, like, so if we're spending £200 million a window, that can become 250, 350 million pounds a window, and it be within the limits. So Champions League, extra 100 million quid, generate money, be able to spend money. I don't want to be the club that just spends money, but it gives us much more flexibility because, as you said, as you mentioned, we need about 5 or 6 players. We need another 10. Realistically, if Ruben Amorim if money wasn't a problem, he'd be signing 11 players, wouldn't he? He'd be signing 3 new centre backs, probably 2 new wing backs, left wing backs, a new right wing back, 3 new midfielders, a new striker, and probably another new winger, and a new goalkeeper. Not to like talk bad about Saint Lemons. I think he's not been fantastic. He's just been a solid like 6.5 to 7 out of 10. But like we'd probably want to replace like Bayindir, for example, like and because like Dermot Mee's never getting a game, Tom Heaton's retiring into the season, and Altay Bayindir has to leave. So we need and Radek Vitek will come back, and we need another keeper. Grace says, my only worry with Champions League is we are still so inconsistent that European football might ruin our league form. No, but it's just about what Champions League can do for our overall project. It's so good and so healthy for the club. We need more players. Because it becomes a certain extent of, yes, we've got more time on the training ground, but these players need to also be playing. Like Erik ten Hag said it. I remember a few seasons ago, Erik ten Hag said it, where he was asked about, does he wish he'd have more time on the training ground? And I think what he said something along the lines of, he does the training in the summer, and there is still training that can go on, but ultimately playing twice a week keeps players fit, keeps players hungry, and keeps players' heads active. Like it's not like you lose, and then if we play on the Saturday, and then the next week play on the Monday, with then 8 days without a game, and you kind of sometimes can lose rhythm. So it's hard to get something going if you don't have midweek games. So to a certain extent, I get what you mean. But also, the more games there are, the more chances we have to be more consistent, if that makes sense. So I do think 2 games a week would really help us. Johnny Hill says, my only worry of spending big money on Amorim is I think the quality of player is hard to get for an Amorim system, unless you're signing players who are out of position, and Bumo is an example. Nah. Our transfer strategy has changed. Think about the players we've signed since we've got Wilcox, Barada, Ratcliffe and co in the club. They are just good players. Like the players that signed in that one window with Erik ten Hag, you got, Xerxes, Yoro, Dalit, Mazwari, and Ugarte. Ugarte, unanimously, it's not worked. Xerxes, nice player, but ultimately he's not quite. He doesn't really suit a lot of systems. Xerxes, like you need to build around him, which is why it would have worked. Well, he won Young Player of the Year in Serie A with Bologna, but I just don't think he's quite cut it for something where like United at the moment. But the other 3, they're good players that most managers would want. Mazwari, fantastic. Dalit, fantastic. Yeleni Yoro, generational centre-back talent. Real Madrid wanted him. Liverpool wanted him. Everyone wanted him. This summer, Mbumo, everyone wanted Mbumo anyway. Cunha, everyone wanted Cunha anyway. Šeško, one of the most highly talked about young midfielders on the planet. Even Sen Lemons, he was wanted by Man City, Aston Villa. I was on Galatasaray as well. But like, I do think there's a certain level of, like, I get what you're saying, but the players we're signing under Amorim are players that anyone, like most managers would want anyway. Like they are, because they're profiles. They're not specific system-based signings, if that makes sense. Like Alessandro Martinez, bless him, I like the guy a lot, but he was very system-based signing. Anthony was just Erik ten Hag wanting his former boys back, like getting the band back together. Anana was the same. It was a very specific system-type signing, and then Erik ten Hag abandoned that system after 3 games, and then Anana just fell off a cliff. Like I do really think that there's a certain level of, we are just signing good players. Like, they're just good players no matter who's managing. So I don't think that's really a problem about spending big money on Amorim, because Amorim's not the sole gatekeeper of all the money and the transfers and everything. So I think would be fine with that. But yeah, sorry, I want to touch on it. We're talking about this a lot and stuff in the chat, but I do want to touch on this Villa game. I agree. If the plan is to continue signing players that can fit a lot of systems, my point was just mostly because I see a lot of people saying we need specialist players that fit an Amorim system. Yeah, people are saying that, but it doesn't mean we're doing it. It doesn't mean, like, the Dorgu potentially you could say was specific, but he's just like a quintessential left back. It turns out Dorgu was the fun signing. I like the guy and I think there's potential, but I just think he needs to get better at decision making in the final third to be a wing back. But yeah, but he's saying I think most of our signings are going to be in Mbumo, Cunha. Like this, we're looking at Semenyo, we're looking at other Premier League, João Gomez, we're looking at Wharton, Anderson, Belieber. Like all these players that we're targeting for midfield, for attack, for defence, they're players that every club wants anyway. So if Amorim gets sacked towards the end of the season, or we don't get Champions League and he goes in the summer, whoever comes in is going to go, you know what, these players are fire, these players are sick. If Amorim goes, we're still going to want to sign Belieber. We're still going to want to try and sign either Belieber or Anderson or Wharton. Like, if Amorim going doesn't really change our targets too much, because there are other people now who are building the squad with the manager, whoever the manager may be. But yeah, Villa game. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Finally, I'm just going to finish off by, who do I want to see in the starting 11 against Villa? Selemon's in goal, obviously. I do really want him to fix up with some of his saves, though. His 2 saves in extra time, stunning saves. He had one which was really, really David De Gea-esque with his feet, the Brooks header. And the second one was it another header? No, it was just Brooks was through on goal, and that was a Peter Schmeichel-esque save, that one, where he was... I know Brooks kind of mishit it a little bit. He was big, both hands. That's what he didn't do against... He went with his right hands this time, like correct hands, so not right hand, but like correct hands, which he didn't do for the Dewsbury Hall goal against with the Everton game. He went with his wrong hand with that. This one, both hands, he got his right hands in the right place. Keep him there. I'm surprised no one looks at Kamara at Villa. Yeah, no, he's a good player. But I'd say Anana. If I was to look at a Villa player, I'd want to bring Anana in. I know because he's a fantastic DM, and we'll see it on the weekend possibly. And then, assuming we keep this weird 4.5 at the back, Dalot on the right, basically doing what Ahmad was doing, which is going to be a bit mad. Maybe not as attacking as Ahmad, but like, I don't know if you guys saw in the second half against Bournemouth in the final 15 minutes, Dalot was playing in midfield. He was just he basically was playing in midfield as a number 6. Yoro's got to be a right back again because there's no Maz. Then if another defender is fit, I would want Heaven out the team. Just because he's played 3 games in a row. He didn't have a great game against Wolves. Villa away is going to be against someone like Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers. Like, that's a really, really tough test for him. And then I want to see Lisandro Martinez starting sooner rather than later. So possibly Lisandro Martinez next to Heaven if no one else is fit. But if either Maguire or De Ligt becomes fit, then I want them starting on that right centre-back role. Left centre-back, then ideally I'd want Martinez, because then that's Shaw at left-back / left wing-back. I don't know if he's got the legs for it, but I want to at least find out. If Dalot is then obviously gone to the right, because I'd rather Shaw there than Dorgu. But if not, Lisandro Martinez will drop to the bench, Shaw at centre-back, and it'll be Dorgu at left wing-back. And in the midfield, Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, because that's the only ones. And then front 3, I hope Šeško will start, because obviously it'll be 6 days after he's came back. He seems to be mostly fit. Hopefully he's clearly recovered from food poisoning. Oh yeah, Casemiro's damn suspended. Oh, thank you, chat. I forgot he's suspended. It's got to be Mainu then, right? He's not going to go with Ugarte, is he? Surely not. Surely not. Okay, I'm going to say Kobe Mainu just because I want it to happen, because I don't want to see Ugarte with Villa. The last game Ugarte started was the Brentford loss, and that was the other game Casemiro was suspended for. Like, I don't see Mainu as being any worse at defending than Ugarte is over his overall defensive package, and Mainu's better on the ball. Not gonna lie, Amorim might be weird and just put Mount there. Nah, we need Mount up front, man. Not up front, but in the attack. Because my attack, what I would want it to be would be Mount on the right, Šeško through the middle, and Cunha on the left. Because that's basically our only attack, isn't it? Like, Lacey's not going to play, Mainu's not going to play in the front 3. Or the other way I wouldn't mind seeing is Ugarte and Mainu in the middle. This is where I'd be okay with Ugarte starting. Ugarte and Mainu in the middle. If it meant that Bruno goes on the right, Šeško goes up top, and Cunha's on the left. That's especially if we're missing Ahmad on the right hand side. We need Ahmad and Mbeumo on the right hand side. We need someone who's just a creative juggernaut, which Bruno Fernandes is. He just creates. Any changes on that? You know what? Yeah, I've decided. The Mainu brothers basically secured Ugarte starting for us against Villa. I don't know, Daniel James. I'm assuming you're not Leeds forward, Daniel James. But the noise and the media talk about the Mainu stuff and the Mainu brothers t-shirt has been mostly focused on Mainu's brother. So, which makes me think that realistically, Mainu's not off the hook for it in a way, but like I just don't think Mainu was involved in that. Maybe he knew his brother was doing it, and maybe he was like, I'm just gonna say nothing either way. But I don't think Mainu instigated that. I don't think Mainu asked him for that to happen or anything. So hopefully Amorim's not an idiot and he doesn't bench Mainu or like ban Mainu from the squad because his brother put a t-shirt on. But Johnny Hills, I do wonder if Bruno will play because we know how upset the club got. Ronaldo did that interview basically examining the owners. Bruno did that interview. So, Bruno's interview wasn't anywhere near that. Bruno's interview was filmed at Carrington. You know that, right? So the club official would have been part of it. Like, they would have been in the background. And I think they made, I don't know the specifics of the Bruno interview. Obviously, no one does. We just know the words he said. because I kind of sympathise with Bruno. Bruno didn't throw the club under the bus. He just said he wasn't there going, this is crap, this is bad, they don't do this, they don't do that. He wasn't slamming the club. He was just going, as Bruno Fernandes, I feel like I've not been appreciated enough by the club. I think it's really, really different to Salah's interview, and it's really, really different to that Ronaldo interview, and it would be insane if we then dropped Bruno Fernandes for this game. It would be utterly mad to do that, and I don't think Amorim would. Which is why I'm hoping Amorim then doesn't do something else and then get rid of Manu for this game, even though it was Manu didn't even speak out. Yeah, it was filmed at Carrington. This is why it's so bizarre, because it was like before. It was because it was set up by the Portuguese national team, like the channel that they own, but it wasn't filmed with Portugal. In Portugal, it was filmed because there's videos of him talking to the interviewer at Carrington, walking around. Joshua Zirkzee turns up and like halfway through the interview for a split second. It's really bizarre, but yeah, bit of a longer episode, but it's been really. Here you go. Sorry, just also Jacobs Ben has said that Manchester United are absolutely in the race for Antoine Semenyo. United's hope is that Semenyo will pick a single club, which would make everything relatively smooth and eliminate other clubs from the race. So it's the same thing we did with Cunha, same with Mbumo. Interesting. I still think he's going Liverpool. Personally, I think if they were to go to Arsenal, I'm not sure if Sesko to really start. He only played about 20 minutes. Yeah, but it's 6 days ago. I just also, who else is going to start, man? Who are we going to start up front? Like, who's going to play? The only other thing is Šeško's off the bench, Cunha's in the middle, and then Bruno on the right, Mount on the left is the only really other real way to do that, because we're not starting Lacey away against Villa. There's no one else. We're not starting Dorgu in the front three, like, Dallo. You might start Dallo in the front three, actually. You never know. But regardless, guys, thank you very much for watching. It's been a slightly longer episode. It's been, sometimes I like it just speaking to you guys one-on-one. Thank you guys who have stayed along, who have watching, or if you tuned in afterwards. Obviously, the Villa game isn't until Sunday, so if you're watching this afterwards, non-live, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about what we've spoken about Semenyo, about the Villa game, about Amorim's kind of back 4.5 system, and all of that. My socials are below. Obviously, like, subscribe, follow United View, and apart from that, I will see you. You can join me on DR Sports at 5 p.m. if you wish, or if not, I'll see you next Thursday.